Hello everyone, it's Lindsay, and today I'm back with another process for you guys, working in my growth book. If you've been watching the process videos on this channel the last few months, you know this is kind of where I like to kick off the kit each month, is in my growth book, and I've really been enjoying this. I know there are several of you that have kind of picked up and started on this as well. I do want to share that I did go ahead and order a new one for next year, so I'm getting a head start, and I wanted to mention this in case you wanted to do the same and join in with this idea. Now, I know that this growth book is not at all close to being full. I understand that. There's just something in my brain that I have to start a new one for next year, because I plan on being more intentional about like taking this to church with me, writing my sermon notes in here, podcast notes, Bible study notes, in addition to just the reflection questions from these kits. And so I'm going to be spending a lot more time and utilizing this a lot more next year. So I will have these linked down below if you want to go ahead and grab one for yourself. This is a notebook that has dotted pages, journaling pages in here, but there's also some other features throughout the book. You can check out Growth Root Co. on Instagram. I'll link them down below. They've got highlights on their Instagram that kind of go through all the details of these books, letting you know all the different features, what all comes with it, how to use the stickers, all that goodness. So yes, you can do this in just a regular lined notebook, but if you're looking for a little more, these are great for that. And the pages are thicker than like a typical notebook, and so they allow me to play a little bit more with markers, different pens. I can watercolor in here if I want to. So if you're looking to, for an alternative to a Bible to journal in, this is a great option. And so what I've been doing the last few months is using this as a place to capture the reflection questions from the kit each month. That way I have them all in one place. I'm very intentional about sitting down, answering those questions, working through them. And it just has been working really well for me. So I'll have those linked down below for you. So this month, no different. We're going to be working through the Higher Ways devotional kit. What I have here is the kit add-ons. I've got the printables. I like to kind of mix and match. But the key focus for this is giving myself space to answer those reflection questions. So I try to keep it fairly simple, but you know me, I always got to show you guys something new, change it up a little bit. So with the printable set this month, there is an extra page. So there's 4 pages this month. The last page is this black and white page. Now this is a traceable page. You can of course print these on sticker paper and use them as is, but you can also trace them in your Bible, notebook, wherever it might be. Of course, you can just use pen and pencil, markers, watercolor, you name it. But I like to jazz things up. So I'm going to be showing you how to use an embossing pen and embossing powder just to add a little, gold sparkle in there. Again, you can use this in your Bible as well. You can also do this with perfect pearls instead of the embossing powder if that's more your speed. That's going to be more flat, but you would get a similar effect. So this basically is a Versamark ink pad, those clear, sticky, they're not stinky, I actually like the smell of them, clear, sticky ink pad in pen form. And so it's gonna lay down a clear, sticky ink that then you can coat with the embossing powder. And so we can do that with the Traceables and get that effect. And we can mix and match with stamps if we want to, but this is a great technique if you don't have a lot of stamps in your stash. And maybe for personal use, you wanna find some traceable images online and use those. This is a great option for you. And so I'm gonna show you how to do this easily with a light tablet. So this is just a flat tablet that is a light box, essentially. It's very nice and thin. And this is gonna make it easier to see these through the pages. Definitely not necessary, but if you find yourself struggling to be able to see the images through your pages, especially when you're working in these thicker pages, this is a great option and it's fairly inexpensive. So I will link this down below. And then again, I'm just gonna leave myself plenty of room to do the reflection questions, maybe add a few embellishments, but mostly gonna be working on those traceables. So let me go ahead, put you guys on fast forward, and we'll put together this layout in my growth book. Okay, so we're gonna start with tracing out these images. So I'm gonna place my light pad underneath the page, and you can see that their lighting is going to change throughout this video. I was going to edit it, but I figured just leave it be. My camera is adjusting the white balance as I turn on that light pad, but that's okay. You can still see what I'm doing. So I just cut out a few of the images, and I'm kind of loosely taping them together just so I can keep the cluster in the shape that I want it to be. And then I'm placing that underneath the page, and you can see here with that light box, you're able to perfectly see those images. And because I'm doing some embossing, I did go ahead and run my powder tool over the corner of this page, just so that I'm sure that my embossing powder only sticks to where I want it to. And then I'm just going in with one of these embossing pens and tracing the image. Now, it's gonna look like I'm doing nothing because it's clear ink, so you can't really see it, and you can't really see it in person when you're doing it. So you just kind of have to go with it, trust yourself. I don't go over an area more than one time. I just draw it out. And then this ink does stay wet for a period of time, but I like to stop and just do small sections at a time. I would hate to go through and do the whole cluster, and then when I go to add my powder, find that the first thing that I drew out was dry already, and so then that would just be a hassle. So I just do one little piece at a time, add the embossing powder, heat set it, and then move on. Now, because these are traceables, and you can see, and I taped this together, I can line that leaf back up and then move on to the next part of the image. I'm gonna use a combination of a thin tipped pen and a thicker pen, which you'll see here. I'm gonna go ahead and use a thicker tipped pen, and just so you can kind of see the difference between the two, and it kind of matches the style of the images. I'm trying to touch this as little as possible, though it's very difficult because there's oils on your fingers. Sometimes that will transfer to the paper, and that will pick up the embossing powder. Not a problem. You can brush it off with a dry paintbrush, but I do try to limit how much I touch where I'm going to be adding the powder, but it's inevitable. You can see with that thicker pen, you can see the ink on the page a little better, and you can see it's a much thicker line. I did go ahead and do both of those flowers together. And the nice thing about drawing it versus stamping is that you can layer things a little bit easier. So you can see I overlapped things without the lines overlapping. When you stamp, you have to use stamp masking and be strategic about where you put the stamp to make sure that your lines don't overlap. This makes it so you can kind of fill in the areas you want to fill in, don't fill in the areas you don't want to fill in. With this one here, you'll see as I'm doing this leaf, I actually accidentally add leaf pieces in my daisy petal, and that's not a problem. I will show you how I fix that. But again, I'm just one step at a time, tracing it with the embossing pen, and then adding the powder. When I add this gold powder this time, you'll see I get a little piece of the leaf in one of the daisy petals down at the bottom there. No problem. Before I heat set this, I could just take a fluffy, dry paintbrush, brush that powder away, and then heat set it, and you're good to go. If you're working on darker papers, the embossing pen is a watermark, so it will leave a mark on darker paper, but on white paper, you don't see it. It's not a problem. So there is a little cluster. You could also do this with perfect pearls and dust that on. And so I just went ahead off camera and filled in the rest of the page with the exact same steps, just rearranging those three pieces depending on where I was going to put it, and working, one chunk at a time. And there you go. Now you could have just left it there, but I'm going to go in with the stencil. I think we all on the design team kind of got the same idea with the stencil. I don't like how I executed this. I went a little heavier than I had intended. I just was filling in diamonds and ended up filling in a lot more than I had initially planned on doing, but that's okay. I'm using a mixture of a micron pen and two different brush markers. I'm using, Earth Green number 172 and Warm Gray 1 number 270. Those are the Faber-Castell brush markers. And I'm just kind of randomly filling in, but it ended up being a lot more than I wanted. I think the other ladies did color and then slightly offset the black line like it is on the front of the devotional card. That's what I should have done, but that's okay. We're going to roll with it. So we have a lot of diamonds on the page. I'm going to go back in and add some of these stars from the stamp set as well. I am actually using the number 169 Caput Mortem Faber-Castell pen. These bigger brush pens are called stamping markers. So they are a bigger brush tip intended to be used this way, used as a stamping ink. So you just brush it on the stamp and then stamp it down. You do want to kind of rub the stamp on the back of your hand first, and that's going to make it so that the ink adheres more evenly. If it's a fresh new stamp, it might just kind of bead up on the stamp. But went ahead and added a few of those stars around to fill things out. And then now we're going to go with embellishments with stickers, and we're going to add the questions. So I always like to, in the top right hand corner, put the name of the kit in some way, whether that's with stickers, writing it out, typing it out, something. So when I come back to this layout in the future, I will know this goes with the Higher Ways devotional kit. And then on the left-hand side, I kind of always just put reflections. That way I know that they are the reflection questions. And that's just for me. When I come back to this, I know exactly what this is. I used that little swatch of pattern that is from the printables. And then those stickers were an add-on that coordinated with this month's kit. I will also use this month's kit stickers, which you'll see. Now, you could type out these questions, write out these questions, but I know I like things jazzed up, but I also like simplicity when it comes, to some things. And so I'm just cutting out the reflection questions from the devotional card, and I'm just going to glue those right down to the page. No fuss, very easy, and that way I can come back and answer those questions. So I'm just going to kind of lay these out, eyeballing, giving myself about how much room I think I'm going to need to respond to these. So far, I've gotten pretty lucky with that. If I needed to add a tip in or something, so I had some additional journaling space, I definitely could do that. But so far, it's worked out okay. Now I'm going in. I cut off the numbers. I didn't have to. I could have left the numbers, but I wanted to use some more stickers to get, just a little more embellishment on there. So I'm using a mix of the two different alpha stickers, actually the number stickers that come with the kit, to number out those. I did glue everything down and used a micron pen to outline those stickers. There you can see there's a little bit of shadowing from the embossing powder when it's heat set. So if that bothers you, then try using the Perfect Pearls instead. But there is a look at the finished layout. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave those down below. Check out the description box for links to everything that I used today. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to this channel if you're not already subscribed. And until next time, thank you so much. Bye-bye.